Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. Saturday, October 29th, Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith back with you and ready to break down the Saturday NHL card. It was not a pretty betting day for me yesterday. I'll say that right now. It was probably my worst day of the season. So the fact that we've got a huge Saturday card to try to bounce back with definitely excites me, and I am excited to see what we can do here with this big, massive card. Let's start with the first game, which is going to drop the puck in about an hour, 2 p.m. Eastern. New York Rangers, Dallas Stars. We've got even money here, minus 110 both sides, 5.5 the total. In this game, the Dallas Stars playing some very good hockey to open up the year. Now on this current homestand where they opened up with a victory over the Washington Capitals, a shutout victory, backed by, of course, the great play in net of Jake Ottinger, who's gotten off to a strong start this season, carrying over the way he played much of last year. We remember they almost beat Calgary because of his play in net. 3 straight unders, playing good defensive hockey, not giving up a whole lot are these Dallas Stars in recent games. We'll see if they can keep it going here in this game against the New York Rangers. Rangers are definitely in a slump right now. 4 straight losses for them. Started with that overtime loss against San Jose, albeit a little bit of a flat spot. I will give them a bit of a break for that. The Columbus game, there was no Igor Shesterkin that day. We saw Yaroslav Halak in net for the Rangers. They lose 5-1. They play the big showdown with Colorado, obviously defending champs. That's not going to be an easy game. And they played well enough to win. I thought they went toe-to-toe, looked really good, but they fell in a shootout 3-2. And then, of course, in a really tricky spot, back-to-back games against the Islanders, 3-0 in favor of the Islanders in that game. I'm going to buy low on the Rangers here, and I'm going to sell high on Dallas. I'm on the Rangers here at minus 110. I think the fact that they've had a couple days off, a chance to recharge their batteries a little bit. Maybe they definitely were lacking a little bit of momentum in that Islander game. It just didn't – they looked a little tired. Right? The back-to-back, they played a lot of games early in the year. The passes weren't clicking. The offensive execution wasn't sharp. I mean, they had 41 shots, but a lot of it was a lot of ragged play. To me, I think this is a good chance for the Rangers to dig in, have a couple days, practice, get things back on track a little bit, and I think come out here with a pretty good effort this afternoon on the road against Dallas in this game. Shesterkin and Ottinger should be one hell of a goaltending matchup. Going into it. I'm looking forward to seeing how it unfolds. So you can understand why this is a total that's gone from 6 to 5.5. And I believe all but the Carolina Islanders game last night stayed under the total. So it was an under bonanza last night in the NHL. It's been an under, good under run across the league for the last few days. So you can understand why this total has been bet down. I lean that way as well. But I'm going to go with the Rangers here around even money. Alex, what do you think in New York, Dallas?
Yeah, we got to be careful with this under trend. I mean, it's cashing, obviously, the tickets are what matter, but you have to understand that the books really jumped the gun and just saying, we're not even going to hang 6s anymore. We're going straight to 6.5. And so that's the reason why we're seeing a lot of those 4-2, 3-2, where 5.5s would be kind of an equation. And that changes everything, because here's the thing, especially for us live bettors, where, if it's open 6.5, then you're waiting for 5.5. When we were getting 6s and 5.5s last year, we were waiting for 5.5s, 5s, 4.5s to pop up. So it changes the dynamic of everything we're betting by the number opening high right away. Yesterday, grabbing a couple of shots with live overs, live first period overs. It's a whole different dynamic now with that big number. So we have to take that into consideration. And like I said, the offenses are catching up to where the defenses have been right off of the start. At this one at 5.5, because of the goaltending matchup, I just wouldn't even look at the total here. But side-wise, I would probably lean toward Dallas, because the trend that we're seeing with the Rangers is that they're having those issues offensively again. They can't consistently put 4, 5, 6 goals up at a time. Then they kind of revert back into their shell, and they let Shesterkin kind of run the show. Well, okay, that's fine. He can do that for a little bit, steal your game 2-1, 3-1 here or there. But at some point, it's going to catch up. And we know Dallas's offense is way better than it's been the last couple of years. Their profile of being a defensive first team has somewhat changed a bit. I like Dallas here in this spot, even though the Rangers time won't be an issue. They're used to playing these early starts a bit more than Dallas even. But I think this should be a good spot here where I think the Stars get the win. So I'm going to go with Stars minus $1.10.
All right, there we go. Liking the Stars. Guaranteed winner. I'm on the Rangers. Alex on the Stars here in this one. All right, Senators and Panthers next up. This is another afternoon game. We've got Florida minus 200, road home favorites, rather. 6.5 being the total in this game. I haven't exactly liked the way the Panthers have played, although that being said, the last two games, they outshot Philly and Chicago, despite losing those games 82-43. So nearly double in shots. So you got to think maybe the floodgates are going to open at some point for this Panthers team offensively. It's just nothing's really coming easily for them. But, man, they have had chances. And if you look at, expected goals numbers as of late for the Panthers, I mean, they've had their opportunities and the puck's just not going in right now. And we've talked about it all year, playing a little bit more of a cycle, chip and chase, forecheck game this year offensively under Paul Maurice. That being said, this is a team that probably, when you look at the numbers here so far this year, probably should be a team that's scoring more goals than they have so far. I'm just going to look to see what right now with their expected goals. They're sitting right now currently. They're only 19th, actually, in the league in the expected goals category. So that tells you that the shots are there. The quality maybe not necessarily there to the level you would like to see from the Florida Panthers. So, in this game, I'm certainly not in a rush to lay 200 with a team that's struggling at the moment, although I thought they deserved the win against Philly, clearly. But Carter Hart was just phenomenal in that hockey game. But nevertheless, they're having a tough time winning games. They've lost 3 of their last 4. The only win was a narrow victory against the New York Islanders. And in fact, you look at their schedule, I believe every Florida win this year, with the exception of opening night, has been a 1-goal victory. So nothing is coming easily right now for the Panthers heading into this game tonight, and they're off a road trip. That's always a bit of a dubious spot. We'll see who's in net, whether it's Bobrovsky or Knight. Forsberg is projected to be in net for Ottawa. We don't have a confirmation of that. Of course, we know the injury to Josh Norris. He'll be out extended period of time, and they'll miss him in his 35 goals. And first game without him, Ottawa loses to Dallas Minnesota by a score of 4-2 in their last game. 29 shots, not quite the offense they had the rest of that homestand. So it will be a bit of an adjustment, for the Ottawa Senators in this game and moving forward, playing without the services of Josh Norris. That means you're going to need more from Tkachuk and Stützle. Giroux's going to have to give you more. You're going to have to hope Shane Pinto. I'm coming back to the well with Shane Pinto here. No, he finally got held off the scoreboard the last game, but you're still going to get optimal opportunities to back him at the plus 375 type of price to score a goal. Same with Brassard. Now that he's playing the second line center spot between Giroux and DeBrincat, certainly an opportunity for him to chip in offensively moving forward. As far as the side and the total goes in this one, this is definitely, for me, slight lean over, but Florida's not exactly filling it up right now. Ottawa is a team I definitely am still looking at as an over team. Even the under that cashed against Minnesota, which snapped their over streak, those games still got to 6. You are going to need 7 here in this game. So for me, this is maybe a small over bet. Nothing significant, just because Florida's, getting the chances, but they're not putting the puck in as much as you'd like. So it'll be a small overplay, nothing more than that in this game. And the one thing about Ottawa is they do have to show it on the road. They played 2 road games way back at the beginning of the year, and they didn't win either one against Buffalo and Toronto. So a lot of their damage and a lot of their all their victories have been at home. Let's see how they fare here on the road. Alex, what are you thinking here, Ottawa, Florida?
Yeah, this is definitely be a game I would attack live with totals, especially like I said, you see a 6.5 and a 7. Wait for that to come down a bit. I do think we see goals. I don't think we see them too early. So I probably wouldn't even have a first period look either. First period under 2. I haven't played one of those yet, but this may be a good time to do that. Spencer Knight, if he does get the start, his numbers against Florida just 1-1, but he has a 4-point goals against average. Kind of a couple of back and forth battles. Of course, you have to look at these numbers head to head a bit differently because how bad Ottawa was before. Ottawa is certainly much more improved from what we've seen the last 2-3 seasons. And look at Florida. Florida's not that speed demon offensive juggernaut that they've been the last couple of years. They've changed their style a bit. Definitely, I don't think they should be around 200, but I'm not comfortable enough backing Ottawa plus 170, especially if it is night going in net for Florida. So this will be one I'll have circled for a live overplay. That's pretty much about it. But this is definitely one of those things, like I said, as I mentioned before. And David Shelton made a really good comment in the chat talking about he thinks that more shots are getting blocked this season. I've noticed that too. For this early in the season, you don't see that many guys giving up the body to block shots like you do in the second half of the season when it's playoff time. Points are a premium, of course, the actual postseason itself. You've been seeing a lot of that, a lot of sacrifice of the body, a lot of active sticks, much more improved defense in the first month of the season. We haven't seen this in what probably I'd say 7 or 8 years, maybe.
Oh yeah, easy.
Where we're seeing just defense playing this well. This defense is in full midseason form right now for most teams. So that is something to keep in mind too when looking at these totals. We're not seeing the same old rhythm and pattern of just high scoring offense and then the defense settles in. Defense is becoming more of the forefront because teams realize everybody's got offensive talent nowadays. It's how well you play in the back end that helps you win games.
Absolutely. And again, we've seen, I'm going to see if I can find it here, the overall numbers here. I know I've got those available somewhere here. Let me just take a look. I'm always, right now, so far for the year, not as much as a discrepancy as I thought. It's been lately we've seen more unders, but still overall for the year, 61 unders, 56 overs. Yeah. So that's 52% to the under in the NHL so far this year.
And to see that this early is quite staggering. That's something you see around December, January, where things kind of crater out or even level out from the high numbers of October to November.
Yeah, exactly. We're used to seeing the floodgates opening in the first month of the year offensively, and the defenses being a step behind. Hasn't been that way anywhere close to as much so far the first month of this season. Tampa Bay, San Jose. We've got the Lightning minus 200 road favorites, 6 the total. This is the final of the afternoon games, the third and final matinee, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, start time here. The lean here for me is Tampa in regulation. It's the only way I would look, but I'm not in a rush to take Tampa, honestly. I don't want San Jose. Let me preface that. There's no way I'm on the Sharks. Sharks have not won 2 games in a row yet. And I'm still in the back of my mind thinking, was that San Jose playing well or just Toronto doing the Toronto type of things where they lose to a bad team? They already did it once to Arizona earlier this year, and they did it again the other night against the San Jose Sharks. So I don't want to give the Sharks too much credit for that win. I will give Erik Karlsson credit. That might have been one of the best games I've seen him play in a very long time. A terrific overtime goal. Beautiful move to beat Erik Källgren in that victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs. But San Jose has not been able to win 2 in a row. Bad teams, the worst teams in the NHL, and San Jose is among them, in my opinion. I don't trust them to win 2 games in a row. It probably will be Andrei Vasilevsky in net. It is James Reimer confirmed in net for the San Jose Sharks here in this game. Definitely Tampa the better of these 2 teams, and they should get this victory, and they have owned the San Jose Sharks as well. They've won 5 straight head-to-head meetings, and the last 2 times they visited the Shark Tank, 2020 and then last January last season, 7-1, and they've actually won 10-1 combined score for Tampa Bay the last 2 times they visited the Shark Tank. So domination by the Lightning. Don't know if I'll bet it. Certainly lean, at least, in the direction of Tampa Bay in regulation. Alex, what do you think here, Lightning Sharks?
This is a great example of take what the numbers give you. Lightning is a 2-1 favorite against Sharks. We know how bad the Sharks are, but Tampa's not playing their best of hockey either. They've been a bit struggling. However, they've won 3 of the last 4. Look at the last 3 wins for Tampa Bay. 4-2 win, 5-3 win, 3-2 overtime win. Let's look at the last losses for San Jose. They've given up 4 goals, 2 goals, 5 goals, 5 goals. And those 5 goals against the Hawks, the Islanders, 4 goals against Vegas. These aren't the top tier offensive teams. The Hawks looking better offensively, but certainly not the Islanders. 5 goals against the Islanders, even though we saw it against Carolina last night. That it's not something you're going to count on all the time from the Isles. That being said, you're getting a team total of 3.5 of the Lightning over at even money. I'm all over that. They have played the Sharks very well. We know how bad the Sharks are defensively overall. They try to slow things down as much as possible, but Tampa, they can kind of get what they want out of you. And what I mean by that is if they know they want to play a physical bullying style, San Jose, then Tampa Bay is going to amp it up and use that skill, use that speed a bit more. We'll see more of a classic Tampa Bay approach in this game than we have, say, opening night against the Rangers. They know that they have a massive strength with their speed and skill. They're going to utilize that. So give me the Lightning over 3.5 at even money team total.
So there you go, going with the team totals route, which is another way to go about it. If you like the Lightning in this game, over 3.5, get that around even money here. Team total over for the Lightning. And by the way, Brandon Hagel, I like that prop again. Brandon Hagel, top line. He's moved up there. He scored the last game, I believe, against Anaheim, late in that victory for the Lightning against the Ducks. So I definitely think Brandon Hagel props are worth it. These are always the situations you love. Svechnikov for the San Jose side, he's moved up to the top line too. So maybe a little flyer with him as well, even though we know San Jose sometimes struggles to put the puck in the net consistently. All right, the rest of the games for this card are at night. It's on this Saturday night. Carolina, Philadelphia. Carolina minus 175, road favorites, 6 the total in this game. It's probably going to be a pass for me, Alex, because honestly, it's Carolina off a loss at home to the Islanders last night. Disappointing, but again, schedule makers didn't do them any favors. They're doing this shit again with Carolina that they did with, I'm trying to think what the other team was, St. Louis, where they're off a road trip. They come home for one game and they're back on the road again. Same thing here with Kakalaki. Holy crap. I mean, they were on the road for a while out west, come back home for one game against the Islanders, and now you're back on the road and on a back-to-back. Talk about a brutal spot. That's why I'm staying off Carolina. I think I want to take Carolina off a loss and lean in regulation with that. But at the same time, now look, did Philly deserve to beat Florida? Fuck no. All right. Anybody that watched that game knows that was the Carter Hart show. He was terrific. 50 shots fired at him by the Florida Panthers, and they hung on for a 4-3 win. But man, this team's just got some stick-to-itiveness going right now and some tenacity, and they dig in deep, and they're blocking shots. They're doing all the things Torts demands. Defensive attention to detail, block shots, sacrifice yourself, play a team game. They're doing that right now, the Philadelphia Flyers. This ain't going to continue. Like I say, call me in February. We'll see what the standings say when it comes to the Philadelphia Flyers. But right now, this team is not a team I'm looking to bet against in these price ranges with the effort that they are expending on a nightly basis. It actually makes you wonder when they get Cam Atkinson and they get Sean Couturier back and they get JVR back. You know, what are we going to get from Philly? You know, is it going to be a situation where when they get some pieces back, they're going to be able to sustain this, or are they just playing way over their heads right now? Part of me thinks it's the latter, that they're playing way over their heads right now, but you wait for them to stumble. You wait for, or you wait for a market correction on the Philadelphia Flyers. And A, they have not stumbled yet. And B, we have not seen a market correction yet on the Philadelphia Flyers. So that's why I'm passing on this game. I would lean under as well. It does have that feel like it could be a little bit of a tighter game tonight. Carolina probably not thrilled with the defensive effort last night against the Islanders in that game. But it's going to be a game I'd stay off just the slightest of leans to Carolina in regulation here. Even though Philly, again, the rest advantage and at home, they played at home Thursday, home tonight. So definitely a rest advantage in favor of the home team. Alex, Carolina, Philly.
Yeah, I'm leaning with Carolina regulation too. And I'm going to tell you why. This exact setup happened last year, Black Friday. Carolina was on a long West Coast road trip, and they had to play one more game on the road, go cross country, and play Philly. And it looked like a dynamite Philly spot. I think Philly was like plus 115, 120. I was all over them. Carolina goes out and wins 6-3. So yes, this is definitely So this is definitely one of those. Sometimes a glaring spot can match up schedule wise and just not pan out. We've had that happen before. We can't always just look at it. And I'm a huge schedule and trend player, but you can't always just rely on that one aspect. So schedule wise is a huge edge towards Philly, especially with that big plus price. But Carolina has done well in these spots, despite the schedule makers screwing them over essentially. And Carolina's just a better team. You know, Philly's been stringing it along pretty well, but we're kind of waiting for that ball to drop a little bit with this Philly team. Carolina's definitely had a good advantage against the Flyers. They won the last 3 meetings. They've played them pretty tough and pretty well. This is a divisional matchup, so you would expect a kind of a tough game. Of course, Rod Brindamore having history with Philly as well. There's a lot of different intangibles on that aspect. To anticipate this being a good game to watch, probably not the best game to bet. So with other spots on the board, it's going to be a pass for me.
All right, Toronto Maple Leafs, LA Kings. I'm just trying to think, was there props that I was looking at in that Carolina? I don't think I had many in that game. Not really. I mean, you're not
Marty
seeing
Natchez or anything?
Marty Natchez and Jarvis. I've been wash, rinse, repeat with them. Philly, I mean, I don't know how much Philly's going to score in this game. But by the way, goaltending, in this game. I don't think last I checked we had confirmations yet. It's hard for Philly, but we don't know. It probably will be Ronta because Anderson was in net last night for Carolina, but again, not confirmed as of now. Leafs and Kings. We've got the Leafs minus 145 road favorites, 6.5 the total. This feels like a spot the Leafs do play the better teams. It usually feels like better, and then they'll lose the clunkers against teams they should beat. But at the same point in time, while I do expect the Leafs to play better, not really in this price range am I interested, at minus 145 on the road. And the Kings are off a disappointing loss as well to the Winnipeg Jets in their last game, although they deserved a better fate. I thought they outplayed the Jets. It's just that, Connor Hellebuck was a brick wall for Winnipeg, and it was not the best performance by far for Jonathan Quick that night. So we'll see how this one pans out. Ilya Samsonov's back in net for Toronto in this game, which you would have expected after he didn't play against San Jose. And it's going to be, you think back to Quick, although it's not confirmed yet for the LA Kings in this game. Of course, for the Leafs, it really boils down to being ready to play. And, I feel like I'm going to be a day late dollar short because I thought they'd be ready to play against San Jose after a bad game against Vegas, that we would see Toronto be ready. And what happened? The first fucking shift of the game, they give up a goal to San Jose. First 30 seconds, and San Jose's up 1-0. So much for that thought. You would think, again, they're drilling it into the heads of these players, or Sheldon Keefe should be, that have a better start. Be ready to play when the puck drops in the first period. So, for first period, Toronto conceptually makes sense, but it also conceptually made sense the other night, and they still had a rough start against San Jose and gave up the opening goal in the first period. And LA is a better team than San Jose, so it's going to be even tougher now tonight for the Leafs. So this is more of a prop game for me. Nick Robertson's of interest. He's had chances. He's cooled off since that great debut against Dallas, but he's someone I would look at. I mean, I'm never going to be one that bets Austin Matthews to score because it's always priced like it. But after getting a goal to get off the schneid against San Jose, he could go on a run. He usually scores his goals in bunches. And for LA, who I'm betting again? Gabe Vilardi, folks. Again, he scored the other night for the LA Kings against Winnipeg, even though they fell short in that game. It's been an incredible run. Arthur Kaliev is one of those players to watch out for, too, as he scores a lot of his goals at home. He kind of goes quiet on the road, but at home is when you see him. 4 home games this year, he scored both of his goals on home ice. So Kaliev at a big number might be worth a look. And as I said with Gabe Vilardi, this is now a guy that has scored 5 goals in the last 7 games for the LA Kings. He's absolutely worth a goal scorer prop look in this game tonight. Alex, what do you think? Toronto, LA? Yeah,
I don't have a good enough read on this one, to be honest. Like I said, I don't want to fade Samsonov right now, honestly. And he's a guy that, like I said, I thought his move to the Maple Leafs was a great one. I thought he was going to be the guy, even though I'm sure obviously when they brought him in, Matt Murray, and they probably told him, we need both of you guys to be ready to roll. But Murray, we knew he was going to be shaky, the injury concerns. I thought Samsonov was really the guy they brought in to be the number one, take the reins, and we've seen that thus far. The Kings, it's a team I like to watch. They are always solid as home dogs, but I do remember this spot last year. Once again, Leafs absolutely drilled the Kings in what was a kind of a big game for LA at that point too. This was kind of around that November Thanksgiving mark where, we kind of talk about teams falling in and out of the playoff race. LA, of course, did become a playoff team eventually, but it just, didn't look like it wasn't the best outing, especially for a lot of people who hadn't watched LA laying an egg on national TV like that. So that being said, I could see this kind of going a couple of different ways. I don't want anything to do with the side. Total wise, if you like over, I'd say wait and grab something better live. If you like under, probably strike now with the 6.5 at a cheaper price.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not bad advice there. Gabe Vilardi, by the way, is now also on the top line. So obviously Todd McClellan sees how well the guy is playing, and by default, he has to give him a bump up the lineup. And they've bumped the goal scorer prop a little bit on him. We've seen a lot of 300s, 300, 350 with him to score a goal. The best price out there right now for him is plus 280. Still a good price, a really good price still for a guy that's going to be playing on the top line, but definitely a situation where it's still, I think, a great bet at plus 280. Top line, the guy has scored 5 goals in the last 7 games. That is not Winnipeg, Arizona. That is yesterday. We will change that. By the way, we should touch on that briefly, and we're not going to do a full recap of Friday, but All I heard was there's going to be this great crowd noise in that building. I didn't hear it on television in Mullet Arena, and they looked at ridiculous. Everybody wearing those mullet things they gave out to put on their heads. It didn't look like professional sports in that building. I just got to admit, that's what it looked like to me. It didn't look like a professional sports league, like a big time professional sports league.
If anything, it was a great sell for Arizona State's team. I know I'd love to go to a game there to watch college hockey for sure. And I actually I was kind of critical for thinking about the camera angles weren't going to be that great. Camera angles were actually really good. They're actually better than some college venues, to be honest. So they did a good job with that. But no, like I tweeted it out 3 minutes into the game, it sounded like a morgue. Like it was dead quiet, way too quiet for what's supposed to be home opening night, a new building. Of course, Christian Fischer scored a couple of goals, gets the crowd going, but it was not as noisy as it should have been. You take any of the other 31 teams in the league, you put them in a building, 5,000 people, it's going to be deafening. It'll be to the point where the TV cameras will have to turn their mics down around the rink. So that's something that, I thought maybe they would be able to try to use this to their home ice advantage. Not so much. So we'll see what happens. It's the first game, of course, and it'll be interesting to see when other teams that used to fill up Gila River Arena come into town, how they take up those spots and affect that noise and that crowd atmosphere in Mullet Arena. Like I said, I've given them a 0 in my home ice rankings. I was expecting to possibly boost that. May not be the case now.
Yeah, interesting to see. Again, that was I agree. The camera angles were good. I just thought the presentation, putting the mullets on the fans' heads, and obviously the dressing rooms, which they're apparently going to say are going to be more NHL ready by December. But they were embarrassing last
They look
night.
like I played fucking floor hockey at 18 years old in a place that had better facilities than that as far as a locker room. Like that was absurd to see it. But like I said, they're going to go on the road for 14 games after this, and that should give the crew more than enough time to do what should have been done 3 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. I remember Dave Poulin was on TSN That's Hockey last night talking about how it reminded him of when he played for the Lightning briefly at the end of his career, and they were playing in the Tampa Fairgrounds, and there's friggin' Ferris wheels, and basically they're trying to get their sticks ready and all this stuff, and it's on fairgrounds, and there's Ferris wheels, and there's amusement park rides and all this bullshit that they have to go through to get to the rink. So that's pretty bad too, what they had to deal with there in Tampa. But yeah, you can put the Arizona experience last night on par with that. Montreal, St. Louis. You've got St. Louis minus 240, home favorites in this one, 6 the total in this game. Blues, of course, who are hopefully now going to be able to stay at home for at least a little bit. Yes, they're going to have a 3-game homestand starting tonight against Montreal after going on the road against Seattle, Edmonton, Winnipeg. They come home for 1 game, back on the road against Nashville on a back-to-back. They lose 6-2. In fact, they've lost 3 in a row. So I like this as a circle the wagons type of spot for St. Louis. Montreal, look, Montreal's been feisty. They're 4-4. It's a hardworking young team. But the fact remains they're still only 1-2 on the road. A lot of their success has been at home. And the reason they beat Buffalo, I think, for the first road win was just, we talked about it on Thursday, right? Just a brutal spot for the Sabres. It was less than 48 hours after returning home from Seattle. And here they are having to play their first game after that Western road trip, less than 48 hours later. They didn't have that extra gear. Montreal took advantage, and they got the victory. I think you get St. Louis, obviously not happy with the way they played. They've been outscored 13-3 during these last 3 games. Great quote from Torrey Krug. We have a veteran group in this locker room, and we've got to find a way to overcome this, and it falls on the leadership group to pull ourselves out of it. So we have to do a better job. Of course, Thomas Greiss was in net for that Nashville game, so take that with a grain of salt. We know he struggled last year, and it looks like his struggles are going to continue this season as well. You are going to see Jordan Binnington back here for St. Louis. Jake Allen, the former St. Louis Blue, of course, is going to be in net here for Montreal, so I'm sure he's going to want to have a pretty good game for them, but I really don't know if it's going to be enough here. I have a small bet on the Blues team total in this game, over 3.5. That's what I'm going to target in this game. I don't love the money line price, the puck line price, or the regulation line price enough to get involved with that. So I'm going to gear more toward the team total, over 3.5, minus 132 for St. Louis. Alex, what do you think here, Canadiens Blue?
I'm leaning toward the full game over here with this, and it's interesting. Jake Allen has only played against St. Louis once before, gave up 4 goals on 37 shots in that one time. So it's kind of interesting. if there's going to be kind of that revenge angle, I don't really think so. I think the time has kind of passed a little bit on that, so that I'm not looking toward that necessarily. But like you said, I think St. Louis is going to bring a better effort, and I could see this kind of being a bit more of a back and forth game. So it's just a slightly getting a 6, which, like I said, now it's kind of a cheaper number. Everything's 6.5 these days, so leaning towards 6, going over, maybe even take a shot live. This is definitely one where if we can get down to 5.5 and even a plus price, I would definitely look to fire on that.
All right, so definitely looking at something maybe in game here when it comes to Montreal and St. Louis. All right, next up we've got the Chicago Blackhawks and the Buffalo Sabres. Hey, before the season, you think Chicago Buffalo? Hey, not a game I'm all that excited about, but with the way Chicago's performed better than we thought, and Buffalo obviously a nice start to the year, -180 home favorites for Buffalo, 6.5. The thing is, though, with Buffalo, they showed against Montreal. Are we ready to lay this price with them? Probably not, but that was a brutal spot. I expect them to be a little bit more energized here, after getting that bad spot out of the way, that first home game after that long road trip and only a day off between the end of the road trip and that game against Montreal. They'll be sharper. They'll be better. I think they'll skate better here in this one, win a lot more puck battles. When you don't have your energy and you don't have your stamina, you're going to lose puck battles. That's just the way it is. I think there'll be a lot more in tune and be able to just do a better job, winning foot races for loose pucks, something that they had trouble doing against Montreal when you're a little bit fatigued. So I think they'll be better here in this one, but I'm still not ready to lay $1.80 with Buffalo, especially when you consider just how hard Chicago plays night in and night out. It's been, 4-3 start to the year. You got to give Luke Richardson a lot of credit because you look at this team. They lost opening night to Colorado on banner night for the Avs, 5-2. They had a tough loss against Vegas, 1-0, but on the road to lose on the back-to-back to Vegas, 1-0 is pretty respectable. They won 4 in a row after that: San Jose, Detroit, Seattle, Florida. Edmonton, they got in a back-and-forth track meet and only lost 6-5. It was a really good effort there. So this is not a price I'm looking to lay with Buffalo. I do think they win. They'll probably bounce back and win, and I hope so because you worry about things kind of going the other way a bit for the Sabres. I understand why they lost to Seattle. End of a long, successful road trip. Totally get it. I get why they lost to Montreal. First home game less than 48 hours later after the end of that long road trip. Totally get it. Brutal spot. Now, if they lose this one now, the excuses run out a little bit for Buffalo. This should be a bounce back for them. I still think they're the better squad, but I'm not going to lay $1.80. I am going to look at the over, though, here in this game, 6.5. Buffalo, I think, will find the back of the net. We've got Arvid Soderblom, by the way, confirmed in net for the Blackhawks. And with Peter Mrazek obviously injured, they want to give Stalock a bit of a break, a little breath, a little breather here, and that's why Arvid Soderblom's in. And his numbers last year, ugly, and that's putting it mildly. How about 3 games, 5 goals against, .863 save percentage last year for Arvid Soderblom for the Chicago Blackhawks? So this should be a situation where we get the Buffalo Sabres offense, which did get held down the last couple of games, to get back on track. And I think Chicago can find the back of the net here against Anderson because the one thing they've been doing lately is scoring goals. So I like over 6.5 here when it comes to Blackhawks Sabres. Jack Quinn is up to the second line. So is Vinny Hinostroza, a former Blackhawk. And for that reason, I like both of those guys for props tonight to score a goal. Vinny Hinostroza as well as Jack Quinn for the Buffalo Sabres. I'd also look, again, because he keeps getting chances every game, J.J. Peterka on that third line. He's worth a look, in my opinion, maybe to find the back of the net for the Blackhawks. You've got, obviously, Athanasiou, and Domi's always worth a look the way he's finding the back of the net right now. And keep an eye on Taylor Radish, starting to percolate a little bit for Chicago. Might see him also dent the twine and find the back of the net tonight. A good game for goal scorer props tonight, this one, in my opinion. Alex, what do you think here, Chicago-Buffalo?
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. This is probably the second Hawks game I've actually been excited for this year, other than the Detroit game. And the Detroit game was really the pivotal turning point. And I mentioned this after the San Jose win. I said that long layoff off kind of gave the Hawks the chance to hit the reset button on what was a terrible preseason. They were able to kind of get things rolling, and ever since then, we've seen them be victorious or at least competitive. Like I said, that 6-5 loss against Edmonton, where 17, 18 penalties are being called. You get in that kind of a track meet with Edmonton, you can't expect to win. Just the fact that they kept it within 1 goal was impressive enough in my eyes. And like I said, tomorrow they have the Wild at home on deck. So you knew that Soderblom would get the start tonight because Stalock's going to go against his old hometown team. Speaking of hometown guys, you mentioned Vinny Hinostroza, Buffalo guy, playing against his old hometown team in Chicago and former team in Chicago. You got Patrick Kane coming back home to Buffalo. He's always been lights out against them. 25 points in 20 games. And you got Craig Anderson going in, that former Hawk from way, way back when. Of course, we've been kind of looking for spots to fade him in certain ways. Arvid Soderblom, who I called Soderbum for most of last year. Let's see if he can shed that nickname. I don't know if that's going to be the case. He just looks pretty bad. His numbers in Rockford weren't much good either. So with that being said, I'm on first period over 2 plus 115. I like over 6.5. That's just a lean. That's not going to be official. The first period over is official. But I also like Patrick Kane over 1.5 points. I like Max Domi to anytime goal scorer. And I'm going to tell you on that Vinny Hinostroza to get a goal for Buffalo as well. I think this is going to be a back and forth game. And I like to see a good competitive game, but I wouldn't be too mad if Buffalo wins this game because then we might get a better price tomorrow when the Hawks are back at home against Minnesota, also on a back-to-back with Stalock in that. I think that might be the better spot to look for the Hawks. Even though plus 160 is a good price, Soderblom being in net, that's more of the reason why we're seeing that price.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a lot of respect in the betting markets for Arvid Soderblom. And if you look at his stats last year, it's probably for good reason. Minnesota and Detroit, Minnesota minus 155 road favorites, 6.5 being the total in this game. Wild seem to be picking it up after a rough start. We know defensively, a lot of issues early in the season for the Wild, but a little bit better play defensively from in front of their goaltender, Marc-Andre Fleury, back-to-back victories against Montreal and Ottawa, 3 goals allowed in those 2 games combined. So better performances from Minnesota as they try to get on a little bit of a roll here, facing a Detroit team that's now lost 2 in a row, 6-2 and 5-1. Detroit losing to New Jersey and Boston in their last 2 games, now 1-4. The Red Wings in their last 5 games. They have certainly struggled. We look more like ourselves, Ryan Hartman said. We've got to continue that. That's how we need to play in order to win games. Marc-Andre Fleury has been better and better as well. Dean Evison saying things are getting better. We're sticking to the team game now. We need to keep things going in that direction. So happy times again for the Minnesota Wild as they try to get things rolling a little bit moving forward and get on a bit of a run. I'm off this game. You know, Detroit is a team I'm looking to back in spots, but Minnesota seems to be picking up some steam, picking up some momentum here going into this game. And to say they've owned Detroit would be an understatement. They have won 5 in a row head-to-head against the Detroit Red Wings dating back to February of 2019. So this is probably going to be a pass for me side-wise and totals-wise. Let's take a look at the goaltending situation here. Although I might change my mind and go with the over here. I'm still not sold on Gustafsson, right? For the Minnesota Wild. So Husso, by the way, in net for Detroit. I think it's eventually going to be more and more on Billy Husso, but because Nedeljkovic has had some rough starts. Although, that being said, Husso did get lit up a bit by Boston in that last start. But Gustafsson 0-2, 5.05 goals against average, .860 save percentage going into this game here tonight. So, and lost both games to LA and Colorado early in the season. Now, was that a product of him sucking? Was that a product of the defense in front of him being bad at the time, which it was? Because now Minnesota has played better defensive hockey the last few games. Will that in turn lead to better from Gustafsson in net tonight against Detroit? That's the big question. How much of those horrible 2 games for him was him? How much of it was the defense, which was bad early in the season for Minnesota? It's better now. So that's the one question, but it's still a game where I'd maybe look over 6.5 with. What do you think here, Alex? Wild Wings.
Yeah, so one thing to take with Gustafsson's numbers is that LA game, he came in relief of Marc-Andre Fleury. Like I said, the defense was terrible. Fleury was terrible in that game. He let in some soft goals, and he just never really found his footing in the last 40 minutes. He kind of kept them within striking distance, of course, because that ended up being a close game. But I would take that game with a little bit of a grain of salt compared to his other start where he just was just bad. And he's got to lay some eggs here. He's still young. He started with the Detroit organization. I don't think that's going to mean too much, though. He kind of left there and then did most of his work in Ottawa moving up. So this is definitely a first period game. You could go over 2 at plus 120. I'm more than likely going to wait and grab something live. I think with Husso in that, we could see the pace slow a little bit to where we get some value and try to hit a 1.5 somewhere in the minus $1.20 range or even plus money. So that's what I'm going to be attacking for here. But I do like the first period overlook and the full game overlook. Same thing. You could try and get a better number, waiting for that to drop down over a little bit. Minnesota has played Detroit very well. This is a better Detroit team, mind you. So I think we can see goals traded back and forth. And like I said, it's funny. I mentioned you were talking about Leah Hextall yesterday. I was mentioning about the game where she was freaking out about the line brawl. It was Minnesota Detroit last March, with the Wild end up winning 6-5, and there was almost a line brawl, and the Delkovic skates down the other end of the ice, trying to challenge. I think that was Kakinen, who was still with the team at the time, and so. I don't think we're going to see any kind of bad blood or anything like that, but it's just kind of funny we brought that up and this matchup happened today. So Wild Wings, I like the first period over. Try to grab a 1.5 at a better price in game and a slight lean to the full game over. We should see some goals back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, for Minnesota, I'd look at Rossi and Boldy again for props, even though they fell short of that the other night for Minnesota. For Detroit, Veleno's on the second line still. The value's there at least. Whether he scores or not is another matter. Dominic Kubalik's been on a run. He's been scoring goals. I'd look at that. And if you want to really go in the bargain bin, Adam Ernie has had a bunch of chances, a bunch of shots, and he finally got one to go the other night against Boston. He got the only goal for Detroit against Boston. So Adam Ernie, keep an eye on that. I'm going to see what the price is on him. I'm sure it is a huge, huge number. Adam Ernie to score a goal. Yeah, I'm seeing plus 600 in some spots. So there you go. There's that deep dive bargain bin grab for me when it comes to a goal scorer prop tonight. Colorado Avalanche, New York Islanders next up. Avs minus 140, road favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. You've got Colorado obviously losing last night. How about the Colorado Avalanche getting shut out by the New Jersey Devils? Talk about something nobody really anticipated, but give the Devils a lot of credit. All of a sudden, Vitek Vanacek, that's 2 good games in a row for him. So it basically, that rant that I had last week, now he's injured anyway, Blackwood, but that rant still proves that what I said was true. You got to let Vitek Vanacek roll with the net if you're New Jersey right now. I know Blackwood I think will be available. He returned to the ice yesterday, but Lindy Ruff's doing the right thing right now. Vitek Vanacek is outplaying Mackenzie Blackwood right now. He should be the goalie, so give him credit. He played well against Colorado last night. Both teams played last night, so it's a back-to-back for both teams. There's no advantage here either way, and both had to travel. And when you think about it, the Islanders come from Carolina. Colorado comes from New Jersey, so it's actually easier travel for Colorado. They don't even have to get on a flight probably. Stay in the same bed, same hotel, just take a bus down to Long Island for this game. I like Colorado here. I'll lay the $140. I actually got a better price than this. I got in when it was around minus 135 or so, up to minus 140 right now. I still like the Avs in this spot. Bounce back situation. They do miss, obviously, the likes of that big Val Nichushkin, who's day-to-day. We'll see if he's able to return. Right now, they only ruled him out for last night's game. So there is a chance that he might be able to come back in the lineup tonight. Martin Kaut is taking his spot. And even though last night nobody scored for Colorado, there's probably some value on Martin Kaut with his goal scorer prop now that he's on the second line for the Avs. For me, it's back to Oliver Wahlstrom, who rewarded me last night at plus 500 at Bet365, who scored a goal against Carolina. He's been moved up to the top line. He's actually still been one of the better goal scorers for the Islanders this year. 4 goals now in the season for him. Still getting great numbers, great prices on Wahlstrom as well. Like I said, Bet365 had him all the way up to plus 500 to score a goal last night. And you can get him at most books for tonight to score anywhere from they've adjusted a little bit, plus 300. I don't know if they've adjusted enough. Let me see what 365 has, because they were the book last night that had a much better price on Oliver Wahlstrom to score a goal than a lot of the other books had. Let's see what they have. They have plus 450 on him. So look at that. I mean, you get maybe plus 300 everywhere. Bet365 has plus 450 on Wahlstrom to score. So I'll be on that prop again for sure, even though I do like Colorado here to get the win in a bounce-back situation. No goalie confirmations yet, but projections are Georgiev for Colorado after Francouz got the start last night, and Varlamov for the Islanders after Sorokin got the start last night. Alex, what do you think here, Avs Islanders?
Yeah, last night I liked Avalanche team total over 3.5, and I was actually talking with a friend of mine about that game, and I said, I wouldn't be mad if it was a 5-4 decision and maybe we get a good price on Colorado to bet tonight, because we knew it was going to be Georgiev in net. His numbers against the Islanders are really good, 8-3 lifetime, which you expect. He played it with the Rangers for all those years, and mostly getting those starts, and oftentimes on back-to-backs as well. It seemed like the Rangers and Islanders kind of drew each other on the first or second of a back-to-back often because of their proximity. So that was one angle. But then looking now, to see the Avalanche not only lose but get shut out 1-0, that's something you don't see too often. It was, I think I saw a stat where it was like the 60th or 65th game of the year last year before Colorado got shut out for the first time. So that's something that doesn't happen that often. Yes, I get Val Nichushkin being out of the lineup. He's been great so far, but he's not the end-all be-all. There's a ton of depth and scoring talent in this Avalanche team. And coming off of not only a loss but a shutout loss, I expect them to come out red hot in this one. I got minus $1.30 early this morning. That's far from gone now. So I would even recommend, and honestly, I should have waited. If I had waited an hour, I probably would have taken this one personally. I would have just had Avalanche regulation plus $1.20. That's what I'm recommending here. If you couldn't get the $1.30, 140 is just high enough past my threshold in the spot. Even though we're talking about a great Avs team, Islanders team that I think has kind of found a couple of their blind squirrels finding a couple of nuts in these couple of wins they've had. I think Colorado comes out hot here tonight, so I'd take them plus 120 regulation for the show.
All right, like in Colorado, in regulation at the current price, even for more value at plus 120 rather than the full game money line. All right, Washington, Nashville. We've got the Predators minus 130, home favorites, 6 the total. I like Nashville here, I do. Just a momentum play that Nashville gets that much-needed win. They were just looking for something good to happen after a really rough stretch of play, and they finally got that win, that breakout performance, 6-2 against St. Louis. Now, granted, he caught the Blues on the back-to-back with a struggling netminder in Thomas Greiss, but a win's a win. You got to start somewhere, and I think it gives them confidence. And it's not like they're playing a team that's a world beater right now. We've talked about the flaws and the problems of the Washington Capitals ad nauseum. They look slow. They don't look like they have the offensive continuity and just playmaking, and just, that offense is not the shoe-in to light up the scoreboard night in and night out like they once were. Still without, of course, a bunch of key forwards up front throughout the early part of the season. That's definitely been something they've had to try and overcome. The Capitals, they got shut out by Dallas 2-0 in their last game. Saros and Kemper, by the way, the confirmed goaltenders tonight for this game. I think a little bit of a pep in the step of Nashville. And look what that did to Vancouver, right? A struggling team that finally won against Seattle. Back-to-back last night after that win against Pittsburgh. No problem. Get another victory. One win after a rough patch could really turn a team's spirits around. And look what it did to Vancouver. And I think it might do the same to Nashville after finally getting that win against St. Louis. So I'm going to go with the Preds here. Don't like that the number's gone up to minus 130, because this opened as low as minus 110, minus 115. But I understand why the money's moved the way it has. I'm going to give Nashville, I think, the first bet I've had on them all year here in this spot. What do you think here, Alex? Capitals, Predators?
I'm actually going to go team total over 3.5 plus 120 with Nashville in this spot. I don't want to take them in regulation. I think this could easily be a game that goes to overtime. But you look at the history with Nashville and Washington. Nashville has played them very well. They've actually won 5 of the last 7. Washington split the two or swept the 2 games last year. But Nashville has been tailing down a bit. Washington has definitely fallen off from where they have been the last few years. And like I said, Nashville, to get 5 wins against some better Capital teams, and now the spot you're mentioning at home, getting off of a win after a tough losing streak, playing against the Capitals team that I still think is one of the slowest teams in the league. We know Nashville can come through with the speed, and they always play faster at home than they do on the road. That's been a given for years now. I think this is a good spot for Nashville. 130 is a tad bit steep. I wouldn't shy away from it, but I like team total over 3.5 a bit more, because if the Capitals do find a way to win this game, they're going to have to get the offense rolling. I think Nashville can at least keep pace if Washington does get off to a good start offensively. So I expect goals for Nashville, win or lose here. Go over 3.5 plus 120 for the team total.
All right, another team total look here for Alex with the Nashville Predators in this game over the 3.5 here. And it's always a great night for hockey and for the NHL and for any of us that are hockey fans. And we have a Battle of Alberta on the horizon, and we have another installment in the great rivalry, the Battle of Alberta tonight. Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flames. Calgary here minus 150, home favorites. The total 6.5 across the board in this one. I ain't stepping in front of this Flames team. No way am I doing that right now. This is my team that I think wins the West. This is a team that I think is playing outstanding hockey right now, both ends of the ice. They had one clunker, one dud against Buffalo, and throw that out, and they've been excellent pretty much in every single game, both ends of the ice. Nazem Kadri's been a beast already for this team, just in limited action, in limited sample size. He's been phenomenal for the Calgary Flames this year. They're just a complete team. They've got a good 1 through 6 on the blue line, and wait till they get Shillington back. Blue line's going to be even better when that happens. There's just lots to like right now with the Flames. You're seeing, their bottom 6 is not exactly huge offensive producers, but they're all, what I love about the forward group for Calgary? They're all responsible away from the puck. They're all playing a 200-foot game. And that's why come playoff time, this is going to be a tough team to beat because they are committed to being sound and good away from the puck, which is a must when you play for a guy like Daryl Sutter. But Calgary playing great, obviously, the 5-1 start to the year. Oilers are starting to heat up, though. They've won 3 in a row this week, beating Pittsburgh 6-3 at home. They beat St. Louis 3-1 on the mini 2-game road trip and back-to-back against Chicago. Not exactly pretty from them defensively, but they get the 6-5 win in that game over the Chicago Blackhawks. I like the over here in this game, and normally Calgary's not a team I look at overs with, but you make an exception when it's the Battle of Alberta because it seems somehow, some way, these teams are going 7+ goals when they play head-to-head. Penalties become a factor, because it gets chippy, it gets physical, there's bad blood, there's not a lot of there's a lot of mutual dislike between these two teams, and as a result, it leads to more power plays, more opportunities to score, and ultimately more goals. So rather than look at a side, I lean Calgary, but I also do want to point out Edmonton lost against Calgary and had a brutal start at home against Calgary earlier this month. They'll be looking for redemption, but I still am not going against Calgary. I think they're the better squad right now, certainly at the defensive end of the ice. We'll see who's in net tonight. I'm fascinated here for the Edmonton Oilers, who's going to be between the pipes, because Jack Campbell, even in the win against Chicago, more than a little leaky. And we saw Stuart Skinner get that start against St. Louis, and he was magnificent in that game. I can't say enough how good he was. We've got ourselves, in my opinion, a goalie controversy here in Edmonton. Skinner is making a name for himself. He's been, I think, a little bit better than Campbell here in the early part of the season. So fascinating to see if Jay Woodcroft is going to give Stuart Skinner the net here tonight for this massive Battle of Alberta. And remember, he replaced Jack Campbell, who was pulled in the first meeting between the Ed is Skinner. It is confirmed. I'm seeing on Left Wing Lock now. RotoWire didn't have it updated. Left Wing Lock does. Stuart Skinner confirmed for the Edmonton Oilers. I'm not shocked. I am not shocked. This guy, every time he's gotten the net, he's been solid. So we'll see if he's able to be that way once again. That being said, I'm talking about him being solid, and I still like the over, as I said, 6.5 in this game, just because of the series history. Playoffs, regular season, Alex, it hasn't mattered. 4-3, 5-4, 5-3, 5-3, 9-6, 9-5. There's been one game in the last 7 head-to-heads that has stayed under 7 goals. So I like over the total here. What do you think, Alex? Oilers, Flames.
Yeah, 28-1 last 29 meetings in Calgary to the over. Within these two teams, like I said, it doesn't matter what time of year, the hatred there. These are two teams that they get it. These guys understand the rivalry, and they embrace it, and it shows. Like I said, even though the characteristics for Calgary is to play low and slow, they throw that out the window when they play Edmonton, and vice versa. And, for Jay Woodcroft, I think the best thing he could do right now is downplay exactly what you're saying. I agree. I think there is a bit of a goalie controversy too, but he needs to nip that in the bud right away, because this is the first time where Edmonton's had 2 decent goalies worth a damn to keep them afloat. Even though Campbell's not playing that well, but Skinner's playing well. This is what you want in the regular season. You don't need the old school mantra of having one guy just carry you throughout the entire year. That's gone. You need 2 guys. So what he needs to do is embrace this and say, hey, we've got 2 goalies that can work right now, where we got one guy who can step up when the other one isn't playing as well. And that's the way he's got to address that for his team and for that fan base. Because you start going controversy in the window, now you start talking about, oh, we spent too much money on Jack Campbell. Now we got to throw all this money at Stuart Skinner. That's how Mikko Koskinen got that giant deal that he got. That was a complete waste of money. So don't do that. If Woodcroft and their GM and the front office, they need to play this the way that they intended to when they signed Jack Campbell. We've got 2 goalies who are capable of keeping us afloat during the regular season in a tough Pacific Division, a tough Western Conference, and now Skinner's the guy. At some point, Skinner may not be the guy, and then Campbell comes back. You have to keep that confidence level still brimming for Campbell. Don't let him get down the dumps, and don't let Stuart Skinner get too high. He gets ego kind of gets full of himself. Next season, he starts giving up 5 or 6 goals left and right because I still think Campbell's the better goalie of the two, personally, as far as my rankings go. Then all of a sudden now he's not feeling himself. And now you got to throw Campbell back in, and now you've like I said, created this controversy. You've given the Edmonton media, which we know they're notorious for just turning a brush fire into a small brush fire into a giant grease fire. Don't give them that ammo. Just play this the right way. You got 2 goalies working for you, doing well. Just ride the hot one while it lasts, and then flip to the other side when needed.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It's going to be interesting to see. That's why I understand Jack Campbell's still a guy that is growing and trying to get better.
Right. Yeah.
We're acting like and he had a nice season in the regular season and even in the playoffs. You can't fault him for them losing to Tampa. He was good, but again, they're treating him always right away like an elite goalie. He's a good goalie. That's where he's at.
And the etymology of goaltenders. That's why I love the position so much. I like to focus on it, and it's integral to betting hockey, but just watching hockey in general. Jack Campbell's kind of rise to fame came when he stepped in for Jonathan Quick, who seemed to have at that point had been on the downcline of his career, was going through a ton of injuries in LA. And then Campbell kind of rides that and gets the deal with Toronto and then bounces to Edmonton. So, like I said, he's still got room to grow. He's nowhere near his ceiling, in my opinion. It's kind of the same thing with Philip Gustafson. We were kind of really hard on him at one point, and he's still got to prove himself, but you got to understand he's still 21 years old. Dude was thrown into the fire literally at 18, 19, where most goalies, hell, Marc-Andre Fleury at 18 and 19 didn't look like a number 1 guy. Look at how Rick DiPietro panned out in his career. Throwing goalies into the fire young, that's not for every goaltender in the league. Only the true elite can really do that at that young of an age and keep it and maintain it throughout their careers. So, yeah, there needs to be some – and Campbell going from one rabid media fan base atmosphere to another, that's not going to help him, like I said. So you have to downplay the goalie controversy, even if it really does look like that on paper, but you have to downplay that for the mental sake of both netminders.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's important for all teams to have 2 goalies that they can count on these days, especially when we're seeing more and more goalies that play 70+ games. They get burned out more than they ever have before. And it's more important.
60, 65 games. 60 games is should be your cap. Even if you are running a number 1, number 2 system, a classic, what I'll call the classic system and not a hybrid system, right? You don't want your guy playing more than 62 games. You just really don't. For health reasons, for just burnout reasons, because when you've seen that lately in the postseason, those workhorse goalies, look at Winnipeg. We talk about Connor Hellebuck all the time, or John Gibson. Even you don't have to be a playoff team. John Gibson, it's clear that there's burnout with him, and it leads to physical issues. It leads to the groin issues and the leg strains and different things like that. It all works together. So that's something that's really crucial, and teams are realizing that more and more. You have to have 2 goalies. The 1A, 1B system, that's the new normal that you have to ride with, and Edmonton has that. Edmonton didn't have that for a long time. They were bouncing around to see who's the number 1 goalie between Koskinen and Smith. You have a good system going. It's not working out as well for Campbell right now, but Skinner's playing well, probably the best he's played in his NHL career to date so far. Just ride with that.
Exactly. You ride the hot hand, and I think that's what Jay's doing here, Jay Woodcroft. He sees that, hey, right now, there's no denying it. Skinner, he's been a little bit better than Campbell. He's given him this big game tonight against the Calgary Flames in the Battle of Alberta. All right, final game of this massive 12-game slate. Pittsburgh Penguins, Seattle Kraken. Pittsburgh minus 115, road favorites, 6.5 the total. You've got the Penguins. What a brutal road trip this has become for them. 3 losses to Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. They did the anti-Buffalo. Buffalo swept Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. Pittsburgh got swept by Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver. They're looking to bounce back here. This is the end of the road trip. Excuse me. They go home to face the Boston Bruins on Tuesday. After this, I know it's a back-to-back after playing in Vancouver last night, but the lines move too much to me on Seattle here. I think Pittsburgh steps up tonight And I'm not even thrilled with the way they're playing at the moment, but I'm on the Penguins here at a cheap minus 115 in this game. I think they show up here. Mike Sullivan finally kind of cracked the whip. He's been kind of cool, calm about the struggles on the road trip, but last night it was a little bit different. He said, it's not good enough. We're not putting together a 60-minute effort. It's hard to win in this league when you don't. We've got to be better and bring a much more prideful effort, he said. And when he's busting out the word prideful, I think this veteran Pittsburgh team gets the message. I think they bring it tonight. And I don't even mind that it's going to be Casey DeSmith likely in net, because Tristan Jarry hasn't had the best road trip either. And DeSmith's, his numbers aren't phenomenal, but I think tonight it's about let's dig in as a team, find a way to win here, regardless of who's in net. Let's be better defensively. Let's get our scuffling offense going a little bit, which has been shut down here the last 2 games. And Seattle will let you get your offense going against them. We've seen Seattle give up 5 spots to Chicago and Vancouver in 2 of their last 3 games. And the win against Buffalo, to me, was more about Buffalo being dog tired, just dead at the end of a long road trip. And Seattle kind of took advantage of that. So, like I said, this opened as high as minus 160. If that's the price on Pittsburgh, hell no, am I betting Pittsburgh? No way at that price. But it's fallen now 45 cents on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, and I get it. Zucker and Gensel are once again very much doubtful to play, although Gensel's been cleared for contact. He didn't play last night. It wouldn't be shocked if they throw him in tonight here on the back-to-back, needing a victory. But either way, I think it's a value price and a spot where we get Pittsburgh's A game or something close to it against a team that they can beat, in my opinion. Pittsburgh minus 115 here in this game. Lean to the over as well, because, again, long road trip, tired legs. You could see some sloppiness and some goals as a result. Alex, what are you thinking here, Pittsburgh, Seattle?
Yeah, and any word on what Jason Zucker, they just said it was undisclosed why he missed. It's a possibility he can come back to, or does he still seem to be out?
The latest on Zucker is will not play against Vancouver. Suffered an injury on Monday against the Edmonton Oilers. So he's missed the last 2 games day to day.
Because yesterday I just read they just said undisclosed will not play. So I wasn't sure if that was injury related. But I'm with you. I think Pittsburgh has a good effort. I'm torn because I want to play this just money line minus $1.15. There's other spots I like on the board. So it's a lean for now. I want to get goalies confirmed for sure. If Jones is going again in net for Seattle, then I'm definitely hammering Pittsburgh this 115. I'm going to grab it as soon as I can because we might see that number come back up to 120, 130. I agree with, we had Jay Rosehill on earlier in the week. If you guys haven't caught our Patreon exclusive interview with him, check that out, patreon.com/iceguys. But on the regular show he was on, and he talked about, he says, teams, you're only as good as how you end your road trip. And so we talked about how, with teams, if you're winning on the road trip, if you lose on the road, then that you have that kind of bitter taste in your mouth flying back home. Well, this is the opposite. Pittsburgh now has a chance to kind of maybe get rid of that salty taste and go, hey, let's win, wrap this up on a good note, and then come back home, and play well moving from there. So I think we'd see a good effort for Pittsburgh, but get the marker out, big green circle on that Tuesday spot as they come back home against Boston.
Yeah, that could be a tricky spot for the Penguins. And you see why Alex is such a great colleague and co-host? That memory, sharp as a tack. I can't remember what I ate in the morning, at night half the time. He's remembering something our guest Jay Rosehill said the other day about you're only as good as how you finish the road trip. See, that's something I totally forgot about what he said, that he even said that. So you got a good memory, my friend. Don't lose it.
Right, that's right.
Good stuff. That was good, and that makes sense. I mean, when you've had a rough road trip, and he's played the game, you don't want to go winless on this road trip if you're Pittsburgh. You don't. You will really want to get in the win column before you make that trip back home to the Berg and play the Boston Bruins on Tuesday. Actually, that game I should say is when it's going to be. So I would expect a pretty decent effort here tonight from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Again, in terms of fatigue. The good news is these games, for the most part, have been spread. They got 2 days off before the Vancouver game. This is only going to be their second back-to-back of the season. I think they can handle it in this spot here. Again, we hope Martin Jones is in net. It's not confirmed yet who's going to be the goalie for either team in this game. We project it to be DeSmith versus Jones, but we won't know, obviously, until later tonight. All right, next, that's it. I was going to say next up. That is it. That's the end of the Saturday card. Great stuff. Great analysis. Hope you all enjoyed it. 192 live viewers. Hit the like button. Of course, we will be back tomorrow for the Sunday edition at noon Eastern time. And again, check out patreon.com/ice guys. Tons of exclusive content, the daily card, power ratings, goalie charts, totals charts. Our Jay Rosehill video exclusive is there, talking about fighting in the NHL today and our top present and past enforcers, all that and more. Patreon.com/ice guys, all for $10 a month.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have more content coming up soon. We're going to have more articles coming. I know I'll be working on a video coming up this week. I know, Ian, you got some stuff. We both got a couple of things we're going to be working on in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we're going to have a lot more content on there. So that $10 a month, we're trying to make it worth the bang for your buck for sure. And so far, I think we've done a good job of that. So patreon.com/ice guys, definitely check that out.
All right, good stuff. And hopefully good stuff with best bets today. Yesterday was my roughest single day of the NHL season betting wise. There's no question about it. I got skunked. I didn't win a single bet, honestly, yesterday from anything. I mean, everything fell short. The New Jersey, Colorado wasn't even close. I had Columbus just didn't show up against Boston. That game stayed under. I had Arizona team total. They get 2 goals on Big Siv Dave, and then they forget to shoot the fucking puck in the third period. 2 shots in the third period, and they could never get to 3 goals because they didn't have any shots. They didn't have the puck in the third period, Arizona. So that was frustrating, but that's all right. We got a huge card, a lot of good spots today. See if we can find some winners. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, the game I should have gave out last night, and this best bet was actually the one I loved really the most with Winnipeg, Arizona. First period over, cashing quite handily late in that period. But we're going to go with another first period over tonight. It's the Blackhawks and the Sabres. First period over 2 plus 115. We've got 2 backups in net. Arvid Soderblom has just been awful as of late. And even with the way that the Hawks have played, getting that offense rolling, the defense has still been a bit skeptical at times. Stalock has had to stand on his head in those starts that he's gotten. So now you've got Soderblom. We might see goals going past him early and often. And on the flip side with Buffalo, bit of a dicey spot. They play well on the road, but Craig Anderson, I think he's the guy who's, kind of playing out the string in his final days. I think the Hawks with that offense, they can kind of get to him as well. So we'll go Chicago, Buffalo, first period over 2 plus 115 is my best bet for Saturday.
All right. That's Chicago and Buffalo over 2 in the first period for Alex B. Smith with his best bet. My best bet is, actually it's the game that, the line's coming down a bit. I love it. Keep coming down. It's going to give us a better number, but there's some Islander money coming in. I don't agree with it. Colorado minus 128, best price out there right now. Avalanche minus 128 against the Islanders. They're still the better of these 2 teams, in my opinion. I know the Islanders, to me, it was a nice win against a good Carolina team, but it was a bad spot for Carolina. The Colorado Avalanche, I trust this team off a very, and I mean very, rare shutout loss. I mean, when are you going to see the Avalanche shutout? I know Nichushkin, Big Val, is a big loss. They miss him. He's had a great start, but I think the whole team picks it up offensively here tonight against the Islanders, and they get the job done. Colorado minus 128, my best bet for this Saturday NHL card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We will talk to you again tomorrow on Sunday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.